Prithvi Shantirantariksha Shantir Dyav Shantir Disha Shantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapa Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantir Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shantir Shantireva Shanti Shantirme Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, Sarvas Sarvatra Nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayeti Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Te Namam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. We begin today on verse number 2. In the first verse which we saw last week, we saw that Yama pointed out that in this body, which he refers to as the city of 11 gates, the Atman, the spirit which dwells inside. And once we know that divine presence within our body and mind, we will then grieve no more. Because that is what freedom, that is what liberation means. Verse number 2. Hamsat Shuchishat Vasurantarikshasat Hota Ve Dishadatithir Duronasat Nrishad Varasadritasat Dyomasad Dabja Goja Ritaja Adrija Ritam Brihat. Kind of tongue twister this one is. If you want to practice Sanskrit, these are the kind of verses you should try to repeat for yourself. He is the sun dwelling in the heavens, the air dwelling in the sky, the fire existing on the altar, the guest in the sacrifice, in the sky. He is born in water, born on earth, born in the sacrifice, born on the mountains. He is the true. He is the great. Essence, what this verse is saying is that everything that we see within us and around us, both gross and subtle, is nothing but this one infinite reality. That same reality appearing in many different forms and in many different ways. So the illusion of the many occurs because of the presence of name and form. Names and forms seem to have a presence, seem to have a reality, but that's a very illusory presence. For instance, if I have, let's say, a wooden chair, now how do I identify that object as a chair? Well, I have a certain idea about how chairs look like. So when that wooden chair conforms to that form in my mind, I say, oh, that looks like a chair. So it has a form, which I identify as that of a chair. And the name, I call it by the name chair. Now this form and name, which I associate with chair, does it have any reality? Because if it's a wooden chair, if I take the wood completely out of that wooden chair, where would the name and form stand? Names and forms have no independent existence other than the substance to which they seem to give some kind of an identity. But on their own, they have no identity. And everything in this world has some kind of a form and some kind of a name. Sometimes about name they say that there are two kinds of names. There is a special name and there is a general name. Now, of course, there are different languages. So a chair is called in English. In many other languages, the same object will be called by other names. But chair or a table or whatever also has a general name. For instance, if there is an object in front of me and I have no idea, I'm seeing it for the first time, so I wouldn't know the special name connected to that object. But if it is near me, I will say this. If it is farther away, I'll say that. Now this and that are also names I can generically apply to any living or non-living object. So everything in this world, in this sense, has a name. Whether I recognize that object or not, I can either say, refer to it as this or that. And of course, a form. Now form, usually when we use the word form, it just seems very visual. But when the word form is used in Vedanta, it's often used in a more universal sense. For instance, when you hear music. Now when you hear music, that's not a form like seeing a chair, but that's the form my ears can perceive. Touch is the form that my sense of touch can perceive. Taste. So form is in that sense, not simply visual. So everything in this world, therefore, has a form in this special sense, and it has a name. But as we have seen, the reality behind the names and forms is the substance. And the substance, the word that gets often used in Upanishad is the vastu. The substance is Brahman, is the spirit, is pure consciousness. So it is this pure consciousness that gets covered by name and form. Interestingly enough, when we know or have some kind of a identification with the name and form, we say, I know what that thing is. Paradoxically, once I see the name and form, I actually don't see the substance often. So sometimes there is a very ancient Sanskrit verse which says that if there is a, let's say, sometimes you have say a toy, a wooden elephant, an elephant made of wood, kind of a toy elephant. And this verse says that if you see the elephant, you're not seeing the wood. If you see the wood, you're not seeing the elephant. You can't see both at the same time. Actually, almost identical verse with the same idea occurs in a Tamil text called Tirukkural. Very, very, very similar idea. So names and forms don't reveal the thing to us. Names and forms actually hide the reality from us. And I mentioned this on earlier occasion. It's just a simple example would be, now my eyes are closed. When I open my eyes, the first nanosecond, the smallest measure of time you can think about, when I open my eyes, what my eyes see or what is perceived right away is nothing but God. But very soon, so soon that I don't even notice it, the reality, the substance is covered by names and forms. So immediately I see people sitting in front of me, I see chair, I see table. So all these different forms of living and non-living objects around me hide the substance which is God. And so if we can develop a certain kind of a special kind of X-ray, if you like. We know what an X-ray does. The X-ray bypasses the skin and all the layers and just able to see what is inside. In the same way, if we can create some kind of a spiritual X-ray by which it will bypass all the names and forms and just go to the substance, then we will see God everywhere. So when Sri Ramakrishna said, I see the Divine Mother everywhere, or when these enlightened ones, they see that there's a divine everywhere, what they are really doing naturally, spontaneously, not merely intellectually, naturally, they're bypassing all the names and forms. And names and forms are really what keep us tied down to this world of duality and the world of multiplicity. So what this verse points out is that in all these number of different ways, these are just a few representative examples, it's the same reality that is manifesting itself in all these ways. Verse number 3. Urdhvam pranamunnayati apanam pratyagasyati madhye vamanamasinam vishve deva upasate. He sends the prana upward and throws the apana downward. All the gods worship the adorable ones seated in the middle. So as you can see, there's a big footnote here. You can read it later on. So the vital forces within our body. Now, the generic name for that is prana. Now, prana itself, it's very typical of human nature. When we see all this multiplicity, there's just too much of it. There are trillions and gazillion things around us. And so, in order to make it a little bit more easy to understand, we categorize things. We bring down the variables to smaller numbers. Now, for instance, in chemistry, they'll bring down all this, the whole material universe that we see, to a few primary elements and say, no matter what thing you see, these are the primary building blocks of the material universe. And of course, you can go slice them into shorter and shorter forms. You can think in terms of molecules and atoms and then neutrons and electrons and protons, and you can just go on subdividing, trying to find something as to bring down the variables to a smaller number. And so that is the way of simplifying. But once then we simplify, there's the other tendency within us to then, sometimes they say, problematize it or complicate it a little bit more. So once we identify that there is certain thing like a prana within us, then we see a prana does a lot of things inside our body. Now, depending on the different functions that this prana performs, this prana then gets subdivided into 5. They call it sometimes upapranas. And these are the names here: prana, apana, udana, samana, and so on. And they perform different functions. So what this verse points out is, whatever function the pranas do, and here the word prana refers not only to these subdivisions of prana, but in general, the word prana is used in Upanishad to refer to all the senses. There is sense of touch, sense of sight, sense of sound. In general, they are all pranas. So what this verse points out is, whatever functions our senses do within the body, all those functions become possible only because of the presence of the Atman. Without the Atman, none of the senses would be able to do anything. Both body and mind would become non-functional. They could not do anything unless the Atman was present. There is another one Upanishad called the Kena Upanishad, which asks this question, that what is it that makes the eyes see? How are the eyes able to carry out their job of seeing things? What makes the ears hear? What gives the ears the power of hearing? What gives eyes the power of seeing? And then it goes by saying the real power is not in the instrument themselves, but in the presence of the Atman behind. So that is what is pointed out here. All the gods worship that adorable one seated in the middle, which is the Atman. Verse 4, sorry. Asya visram samanasya sharirasthasya dehinaha dehat vimuchyamanasya kimatra parishishyate etadvaitat. What remains here of that owner of the body, of him who dwells in it, when separated and freed from the body after death? This is verily that. Well, yeah, it's a rhetorical question. In other words, what remains? Does anything of me remain in the body when I leave the body? And the answer is no. That the reality, the person within the body is the Atman. The body and mind are only coverings. We know that in the Gita, Krishna says that these are just like clothes, just like when a cloth gets worn out, we throw it, put on a new cloth. So Punarjanma, a reincarnation or rebirth, is nothing but throwing out one old garment and putting on a new one. But the person is the one who is inside. But that was the dilemma that Arjuna had in the Gita. When he said, these are all my own people, how can I kill them? And then Krishna said, no, you cannot kill them. I mean, what you can kill, if you must kill, is use a body. It's one body that can go and destroy another body. But the person, the real person within, was never born, will never die. And of course, we don't know that. That is what ignorance is. So that is why when the body is destroyed, we think I will be destroyed. When the body comes into being, I feel I was born. So from that highest standpoint, birthdays are meaningless. But it's still good to celebrate them, provided you keep in mind that it simply means that is the age of this body. That's not my age. So that's how a Vedanta student will understand. Don't tell this to your friends, otherwise birthday gifts won't come. Verse 5. Na pranena na apanena martyo jivati kaschana itarena tu jivanti yasmin neta upashritau. No mortal ever lives by prana or by apana, but they live by something different on whom these depend. Again, prana here means the senses. So, we might, they say about a person who was celebrating his 100th birthday, and not everyone lives to be 100. So it was a big event, and they had invited a few journalists. So one of the journalists goes and asks this person, what is the secret of your long life? How did you manage to live so long? And then this person said, it's simple. Just keep breathing. Don't stop, ever stop. Now, we might therefore think, breathing is the thing. If I stop breathing, I will die. So breath is the most important thing. It's my breath that determines my life. And that this verse points out is no, it's not your breath. What determines your life is something different. And that is, as long as the Atman, the Jiva, is present inside, all the others have to be there. They can't leave at their will. So it's not the breath that is controlling me. There is someone else who is controlling that breath. And then the next verse will point out what that factor is, which controls one's lifespan. Verse 6. Hantate idam pravakshyami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatha cha maranam prapya atma bhavati Gautama. Now I shall tell thee again, O Gautama, of the mysterious eternal Brahman, and also what happens to the self after meeting death. Verse 7. Yoni manye prapadyante sharirattvaya dehinaha sthanu manye nusanyanti yatha karma yatha shrutam. Some souls enter the womb to have a body, others go to the plants, just according to their work and according to their knowledge. So this verse is often pointed out, one among the few that we find in the Upanishads and the Vedas, which directly refer to rebirth. That what happens after death? And how is our birth determined? So this phrase, yatha karma, yatha shrutam, according to one's karma and according to one's knowledge. Because this has always been a mystery. Even those who accept that there is such a thing as a rebirth, what kind of a birth? If I am to be born again, what kind of a birth I will have? What determines the length of this birth? And we have seen these subjects before, so it's not new, but just to mention very briefly, the lifespan is determined by our karma, that karma which has given rise to this body, that karma which has begun to yield fruit. So the Sanskrit word for that is called prarabdha. That which has begun, arabdha, arambha is a word meaning beginning. So that which has begun to give its results. The simple example that comes to mind is, it's like when we try to go on a vacation. So when there is a long weekend and you decide to go on a vacation, and then you say, okay, I'm going to the Bahamas or to Hawaii or wherever, and say, okay, I'm now going to carry, my budget for this vacation is, let's say $2,000. And then I go book a place, room in a hotel, and then I go and have fun. Now, how long can I stay for the vacation? If my budget is 2,000, then I can stay as long as I have some money left. When my limit is reached, then I don't have any more money, I have to leave the place. Now, I may have more money, but I have budgeted that much money for that much vacation. So that's kind of a crude analogy. Now, think about karma. Every action that we do, physical and mental, thinking is a mental activity. So every action that we do, let's say that is earning us karma dollars if you like. So, and we do lots of actions, physical and mental. We do think a lot and we do a lot. Now every activity is generating more karma dollars for us. So there's a lot of balance. The only way, so karma is earned by doing action. Karma is spent by experiencing the result. And in terms of experience, that result is primarily of two kinds, sukha or dukkha, joy and sorrow. So every time I experience joy in life, in any form, in any way, and every time I experience pain in life, in any form or any way, some of my karma dollars are being spent. Every time I do actions, I am earning it. Now, the major difference is, while the other kind of dollars we would like to have as much as possible, always would like to have a lot of balance, the karma dollars are just the opposite. Unless and until all the karma dollars are completely exhausted, unless and until we become bankrupt, we cannot be free. So it's because as long as there is karma, I have to keep on coming to this world and go to kindergarten, go to school, again study. You will know freedom from that. Again, do all your homeworks. So the goal, therefore, is to finish these karma dollars as quickly as possible. That is easier said than done, because none of us can stop doing things. We might just sit in a corner and not do things, not do any physical activity, but my mind is still active. So simply just remaining motionless is not going to solve the problem, nor can we really remain motionless for any amount of time. So, we always do more actions and we experience less. So in other words, we are always generating more karma dollars and not spending enough. So our balance always keeps on increasing. Now, when a person dies, that person has a lot of karma dollars in the balance. Now, there is a process by which mysteriously some amount of karma becomes ready for fruition. And the example that they sometimes give is those who have done gardening, and you kind of collect a lot of seeds for planting, but a lot of the seeds you can't plant them right away. They need a little germination period. And only they can say, now the seeds are ready for planting. So karma is a little bit like that. That while there may be a lot of karma in our account, not every karma is ready to give its fruit immediately. So karma needs to kind of reach a point when it says, okay, now I'm ready. So when a person dies, and when before the next birth is to occur, from our whole karma fund, some karmas will bubble up on top and say, we are ready. So that subsection of our karma, which is now ready to give birth, so this soul will pick up that karma and enter into some body. So that karma which it has come with now, that's its budget for the vacation, so-called vacation into this samsara. That is the karma dollars we have come with. As long as that karma, which is now ready to bear fruit, is not exhausted, I will not die. Sometime you will see, there is a plane crash. And probably most people die. Maybe just 2 or 3 people miraculously survive. They will say, what? How come these 2 people survived and everybody died? From karma perspective, the easy answer. Well, their karma dollars were not spent yet. Or sometime you will see, there may be such a case where the patient is almost knocking on the death door, and the doctors will call the family and say, no hope, maybe just a day or 2. And the person doesn't die. In fact, such a thing did happen a few years ago. Some years ago, I received a call that one of our swamis, the doctors had said, no, it's no chance of survival. And so many of us swamis from all over the United States, we went to see him just because they said not more than 2 or 3 days at the most. So we went, and of course, it was nice. The Swami was very happy to see us. And we all said our, assuming it's going to be the final visit. And then we came back, and he didn't die. Now he's still there. That's 10 years ago. Again, so none of us knows how much karma, prarabdha karma we are born with. None of us knows the composition of that karma. How much of this is joy bearing? How much of this is pain bearing? We don't know. We don't know the quantity, and we don't know the quality of it either. Which is why we have no idea about how long we are going to live or what our experiences are going to be. But one thing we know, that as long as this thing that I have come with is not exhausted, I will not die. And here is the thing. Once it is exhausted, any silly reason will do. Just anything. Now, that doesn't mean that, let me say, if that is the case, why should I worry about trying to be healthy? Why should I try to be careful about my diet and exercise, all of that? Because karma will take care of it. What do you think? Well, okay, here is the thing. I'm going to go back a little bit. So this karma that comes up ready for fruition, depending on the nature of the results, nature of the experiences that karma is likely to give me, nature generally follows the path of least resistance. So what nature does is that it provides a kind of body which is the best suited to work out that particular kind of karma. So that is what determines where I would be born and what circumstances I would be born in. It simply is, nature is just, it's a little bit like, sometimes you have these algorithms now online, if you put in a certain data, they apply a certain parameters and say, okay, they kind of push you there. Something like that. I don't know the technicalities of it, but it's a very intricate process by which nature, it sees a certain set of karmas, says the easiest way for this being to work out this set of karmas would be, let's say, if that karma represents predominantly a very beastly nature, then nature would say, well, it's better that this person is born in an animal body than a human body, because it is easier to work out beastly karmas in a beast than in a human body. Sometimes nature gets it wrong. That's why sometimes people behave like animals. But usually it works out all right. And so that is what, so that is yatha karma yatha shrutam, according to one's karma. Now, shrutam, knowledge, it's translated as knowledge. It really means not the knowledge of the self. So there are two kinds of activities. So the physical activity gives karma, and the mental activity, the meditation that people do or reflection that they do, that generates a kind of knowledge. So that is the knowledge that is being referred to here. So both physical activity and mental activity determine the experience of that soul in whatever birth it takes. There's one other small footnote to that. Every action that we do also generates impressions called samskaras in Sanskrit. So, and because we have done a lot of actions, we have a lot of mental impressions. Now, these mental impressions influence the choices that we make in life. They don't determine the choices. So this is a very important distinction, because a lot of misunderstanding about karma occurs because of this. So listen to me carefully. Karma determines my experience. So the joy and sorrow that I am going to experience in life, and that I have experienced in my life so far, is direct result of my actions. That's determined. I cannot change it. That's fixed. The mental impressions, they don't determine my actions, they influence my actions. Or they try to influence my actions. And there I have a choice. I can say no. So if someone is trying to influence me, I have a choice whether to get influenced or not. If I'm weak, if I'm susceptible, if I'm not reflective, I'll allow myself to be influenced by others. But if I'm independent, if I use my head, I will think carefully before choosing or before making any choices in life, not just blindly giving into the influences around me. So our mind is always trying to, because of the impressions, they'll always try to nudge me in a certain direction. It's a little bit like, let's say you enjoy drinking Starbucks coffee and you have good samskaras, Starbucks samskaras. So every time you pass by a Starbucks, then although you have something else to do, that was not why you went out actually. You were going to go someplace else. But you saw that Starbucks, and then that impression comes up and says, hey, just go quickly and have a coffee. So now that impression is trying to nudge me, trying to influence me to go and have a coffee. But I don't have to. And sometimes we see, the mind says do something and I say, no, I'm in a hurry, I don't want to do it, or it's not good for me, or it's bad for me, whatever. But I can say no to it. And I say this is important because a lot of times the mistakes that we make in life, people just say, oh, that's my karma. No. That's not my karma. So my stupidities and my mistakes, cannot be blamed on karma. Those are my mistakes. I had a choice to say yes or no to every decision I made in life. Yes, my impressions were trying to nudge me, trying to influence me, but impressions are not a fixed entity. Impressions, it's a very dynamic population, really. Because if every action is going to generate a samskara, I'm doing my actions even now. So let's say I am born, because everyone is born with karma and samskaras from my past births. So let's say a person is born with samskaras, just to put a number to it, say 40% of the samskaras are very healthy and positive, and 60% are negative. So unfortunately, this person has come with a past with more of negative samskaras and less of positive. So because of that, the influences will try to nudge him in a negative direction because the samskaras are more. But if this person now makes a firm determination, no, I want to do something positive. Even though my mind may want me to push towards something negative, I want to do something positive. So every time the mind says negative, this person said no. And with determination, with willpower, this person keeps on doing positive things, good things, even though it is difficult. And again, with perseverance, with willpower, says no to negative things. In effect, this person now is generating more positive samskaras by the present actions and less negative samskaras. So over time, that original thing, about 40-60, will change. Maybe become 50-50. Maybe at some point, the positive ones will become more. Swami Vivekananda points out in his lectures on Karma Yoga that what we say the character of a person is nothing but the sum total of the samskaras. So in that person whose samskaras, majority of the samskaras are good and positive, we say that's a person of good character. When the majority of the samskaras are negative, unhealthy, we say bad character. But the samskara, as I said, is a very dynamic composition because we are continually doing actions. So it's possible if I'm not careful, my good character can become bad if I just live carelessly, thinking, well, I'm good, I'm always going to remain good. I don't have to. Similarly, if someone is seen as a negative, then that person doesn't have to remain like that. That person can change. And that's why they say every sinner has a future, every saint had a past. The idea is these things can. So samskaras can be changed. Karma, past karma, well, it's already done. So you can't change what's happened. So this distinction is important to keep in mind. So what this verse points out is that after death, depending on the kind of karma that comes ready for fruition, some may be born as human beings, some may be born in animal bodies, some may be born sthanu, even in plants and trees. So they see that plants and trees also are conscious beings. And that is why sometimes you will see people will say, oh, if I'm not careful, if I just lead a mindless living, I'll have to start back again from trees and plants and again evolve into a human being. So Shankaracharya says in his Viveka Chudamani that having gotten a human birth, and especially those of us who take spiritual life seriously, so these three things, a human birth, a desire to lead a spiritual life, a desire to be free, and a guidance of a spiritual soul, of an enlightened soul. If we have had these three, Shankara says, comes only through the grace of God. And then he goes on to say, having acquired this human birth, if we don't strive to attain that highest goal, if we fritter away this opportunity, then that is real suicide. Because there is no guarantee that just because sometimes people say, okay, I've done enough this life, I will continue in my next life. Don't be too sure. We don't know what next life would be. It may not be into a human birth. It may be, God forbid, not like some creeper somewhere. So, but all of those things are possible. So this is the one important thing that this verse points out. So we'll stop here. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, feel free to ask. Yeah.
So, Swamiji, given that all actions lead to karma, even sitting, as you said, we're thinking, are there ways we can generate and ways we can earn less karma in our daily life?
Ways to?
To earn less karma in our daily lives?
Yes. And that is really what Karma Yoga is all about. And that is, in order to do karma, there has to be a doer. So, actually, karma is not so much a problem, it's the doer who is a problem. So, now for instance, the pumping of my blood, so the function that my heart and lungs are doing, we might say, well, I'm not doing anything. The heart is doing everything. Heart is doing all the work. The lungs are doing all the work. But are my heart and lung generating any karma? Because they are doing the actions. And as far as we can see from our understanding, no, they are not doing anything because they don't have the sense that, well, we don't know what my heart is thinking. But again, from our framework, the heart doesn't see itself as the doer. The lung doesn't see itself as the doer. So they are not generating karma. So I generate karma because I see that I am doing it. Now, Karma Yoga really means to do what is right, to do what is good, with always remembering I am not doing anything. Now, how is that possible? Because I'm doing it, and how can I still say I'm not doing it? And that is where we see that, well, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. All actions that we do, physical actions are done with the body, mind, and everything. So mental actions are done with the mind. Now, I'm neither the body nor the mind. So really, I'm not doing anything. So the more I recollect that, and what makes it difficult to remember that is our samskara, in our actions. Now, if I can resolutely, with applying a firm determination, resolve to do always what is right, always what is good, remain on the path of dharma all the time, then I acquire that clarity, that inner strength, that inner power, which then makes it easier for me to remember that I am the Atman. The reason we forget this so often is because the heart hasn't become clear yet. And the heart hasn't become clear yet because we haven't become established in dharma yet. So it's kind of a chain reaction. And in the path of bhakti, so either one is to remember I am the Atman, I'm not the body and mind. And a bhakta, a devotee says, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it out of love for God. So I offer everything at the feet of the Divine Mother. Then it's a little bit like if you're working in some company and there is some major problem there, they are not going to catch each and every employee of that company to do it. Essentially, they're going to go to the CEO or the person who gave the orders, because that person is the real doer. The others are only instruments in a company. And so therefore, if I can remind myself as a devotee, God is the doer. I'm only a God's servant. So whatever I'm doing it out of love for God. So if any karma has to come, let God take it. I'm only an instrument. But the beauty is this: if I'm God's instrument, I can only be doing right things and good things. I can't do something terrible and say, well, I'm God's instrument. It doesn't work that way. So those are the two ways we could do it.
Swamiji, are we generating karma in dreams?
Yes. But not in deep sleep. Deep sleep, there is no I, there is no you. But in dream, yes.
So the same samskaras and results of the karma, which is experiences, sukha and dukkha, the same equation applies.
Yeah, and sometimes some dreams are very joyful. Some dreams bring a lot of pain. So certain karmas, so sometimes they say, there is a phrase in Sanskrit which says that some karmas are there to yield their sukha or dukkha in dreams. Some are there to sukha or dukkha here. I mean, how do you know this is not a dream?
Yeah, Swami, that's what I was...
So, if there is karma here, is karma there also. Yeah.
And one more question, Swamiji. In deep sleep, there is ignorance, right? Ignorance is still there, that's why we're not realized.
Mm-hmm.
But you also said that when the first nanosecond when the eyes open, there is no ignorance at that time, I imagine, because we are seeing only God.
Yeah, I mean, this was just to kind of make it clear that the gap is so little that ignorance just covers. I mean, sometimes a little bit, sometimes you will see that in some stagnant pool of water, a pond or something, over time moss will gather and it just kind of, it looks very opaque. And then you kind of just move the water a little bit and you see the water underneath is pretty clear. It's just that moss overneath. But then you leave it aside, the moss comes and covers it up again. It does it very slowly, so you are able to see the clear water. This is a little bit like that. So there is ignorance, but it's kind of a covering over me. So when I open it, actually I should just see the divine, but that ajnana comes and covers it very quickly. So it covers it so quickly that I really don't even see anything. So this is just a theoretical formulation.
Swamiji, so talking about name and form, name and form because of the mind. If, for example, if there is no mind, then it will not perceive the name and form. So is that the interplay of mind?
But what do you mean? For example, there is no mind. There is always a mind.
So if somebody like brain dead, for example.
No, brain is not the mind. Mind is still there.
Okay.
Brain and mind are two different things. Brain is a part of the body. Mind is separate. So when a person dies, the brain dies. Mind doesn't die.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, the death of the mind is enlightenment. The connecting link between one birth to another birth is the mind, not the body, because the body is destroyed here itself. Mind?
Swamiji, when you were answering Vikram's question about doing deeds or good which are in God's name, you do that. In Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna to kill. And you said that everything you do in name of God is good. How does that then kind of reconcile with Arjuna that he's trying to kill his kinsman?
No, Krishna tells Arjuna, do your duty. He's not saying go and kill. Do your duty. It just so happens that at that time, his duty is to fight. Yeah.
So he just has to kind of continue doing it without thinking that that's the consequence.
And there is also another thing to it. This is just a speculation, we don't know. I mean, although Arjuna says in the end of the first chapter, oh, I'm not going to fight. I've often wondered, if Krishna had not said anything, Krishna would have said, he's just sitting there, I won't fight. I don't know. I think he would have fought. It's because, he has his samskaras. He is the best archer in the world. It's easy to kind of feel like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And suddenly he's surrounded by people who are about to kill him. Would he defend himself? Yeah, I think he would have fought. Yeah. Yeah.
Swamiji, when you were talking about impression, like you said that if I have a taste of Starbucks coffee, when I will pass that store, samskara will come. So, in order to be in spiritual path, we should be always be with the spiritual gathering, because that samskara will be, because samskara is samskara. It could be good impression, or so that samskara will be always there, and we will just keep it alive. If we are surrounding by spiritual people, it will there.
Absolutely. And that's why they speak about the importance of holy company. You read good books, have good friends. As much as possible, surround yourself with positive, healthy influences, because then that will generate good samskaras, and that will protect me from doing anything which is self-destructive or something that will bring me more pain and suffering in life. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, nice.
So Swamiji, you spoke about action and experience, and you said that actions create new samskaras. Do experiences also create new samskaras?
No.
Because I was thinking, like,
Well, I mean, experience is not an action.
so in the following sense that, like, I think you had mentioned previously that, in heavenly bodies or in animal bodies, you typically only experience. You don't actually create new karmas or new sanskaras. But then I was thinking that, in an animal body, if I were to enjoy something, then when I get a human body, I'll probably enjoy the same thing to some degree or the other. So that samskara would be created, even though
You see, the Gita says, Gahana karmano gatihi. The ways of karma are inscrutable. So, none of us really knows, because karma is still a theory. All that generally we tend to say is that as human beings, we have the ability to exercise our choice, whether to do something or not to do it, or do it this way or that way. And a rather simplistic understanding about animal life is that their life is very instinctual. Not fully true, but this is kind of a very broad brush-stroke idea about animals. And that is, if a dog is hungry, and if there is food in front of the dog will just go and eat it. On the other hand, let's say I have a certain food restrictions. There are certain kinds of food I don't eat, and I may be dying of hunger. And there may be that food which is forbidden for me. I might choose to not eat it and rather die. While an animal would not make that distinction. Again, not necessarily true, but this is the general idea. And that is why it is said that in animal life, there is no fresh karma being done. So when a tiger goes and eats an antelope, well, that is himsa. The tiger is killing. Is the tiger creating bad karma as a result of this violent act, or what? Again, who knows? But as far as we can see, it doesn't feel like it. That's my not a very direct answer, but lot of things about karma, to be honest, we'd say we don't know. We just know the broad things, that good actions will lead to good results, bad actions will lead to bad results. Yes, the more specific you go into it, just a matter of belief, we don't know. I mean, there are books, there are people who might say, oh, this experience is because of this thing you did in 10 months. So people have, what is that, like past life regressions and crystal ball gazing. And sometimes because of the human vulnerability to know about the future or what went into the past, sometimes some people take advantage of that thing, and then we have all this occult stuff. It doesn't interest me much because there is no way to prove or disprove it. So what I like is what Swami Vivekananda said. He said, there is no mystery mongering in religion. That truth is transparent. The truth doesn't need to hide itself. And so long as in spiritual life we hold on to that something that is open and clear, there is no mystifying, we are generally in a safe side. Because once you kind of get into this occult stuff, there is no way to know. But some people say, well, I believe in it. Some people say, I don't believe in it. And there is no way to objectively prove or disprove it. So there we kind of get into a little a space about which nothing can be said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll stop here today. And when we meet next time, we will resume on with verse number 8. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. We'll continue with this study next Wednesday. On Sunday, we will have Antar Yoga, as we do every month. There'll be reading by members, there'll be music, there'll be reflection, and we'll also celebrate the birthdays of everyone born in the month of June. That'll be on Sunday. And on Tuesday and Saturday, our meditation will also continue as usual. So let's conclude with a prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.